Welcome to Winsford. I'm sorry we're starting 6 or 7 minutes late. Just to allow everybody to attend, it made sense just to hold back our start. Welcome to this latest Scrutiny meeting, which I did promise was going to have a one-item agenda. It has turned into a two-item agenda, and since there is an item of urgency to deal with, which we'll deal with at the end of the meeting. The easiest thing is to turn the meeting over to you, Councillor Ford. Give us your extempore description of where we are, and then I'm sure the members will wish to chime in and ask questions.
Yeah, the lack of business, and Cheshire is noticeable for one or two downturns in its own business activity. So we have to do something to make both the town centres attractive. And I'm also mindful that in the longer term, emailing or internet buying is on the rise. This means that towns are going to be under some pressure anyway. So we need to make sure that our towns remain viable and attractive places to come, both for shopping in the daytime and for the evening events. So I think it's very important that we, in our forward planning, we take a look at this, and I've already asked Keith Musgrave to take a look at the car parking charges as one instance. But I think we've got to look at how we organise the whole of our towns in many ways. So this is quite a major, I think, activity for us in the next 5 years. And then on top of that, of course, we've got a whole host of things to manage in the course of this. Having set these budgets, we have to deliver it. And because there is obviously a measure of uncertainty when you just go on paper and produce a budget and say, well, we can not do this. When it comes down to reality, as you move down the line, that may not turn out to be quite as easy as you anticipated. So it is planned that we will have at least a star chamber every quarter to look at progress, to make sure that we're on target. We cannot afford... I won't take you through the rather lengthy presentation I did to the executive, because I should be probably repeating that at council. I don't want to bore everybody 3 times, twice will do. I think generally the first position to be at is to understand where we're starting from, of course, quite clearly. I mean, it's a statement of the obvious. We're putting 3.5 councils together into one budget, and we've inherited, therefore, a fair amount of material from the 3 budgets. And the essential part of that, then, is that in our bid, we said we'd save 15,000, that is the LGR bid we made to Her Majesty's Government. The
15 million.
15 million, what did I say?
1,000.
1,000, oh, well, there we are. What's that between? The odd 3 noughts. 15 million, yes, beg your pardon, we're dealing in millions. And on top of that, there was something like 10 million, I think, already in the various councils' budgets, of things they were planning to do. So they have also been done, as I say, rather than waiting on any further events. And then on top of that, of course, we've had 5 million or so of adverse income. I mean, I think all the district councils have been facing this, particularly on things like planning income, vacancies in their industrial units that they may have out on rent, and so on. And that's been quite considerable. Of course, added to that a bit of car parking income in Chester and Ellesmere Port as well. That's quite a significant hit. And I think it's probably fair to say that I doubt if any of the district councils have had a very easy time in meeting even the government's capping level of 5%. It would be quite difficult. I've been reading the papers. Many other district councils are facing the same quandary. So, in one sense, therefore, local government reorganisation has come at a very appropriate time, because we've been able to deal with a whole series of structural reorganisations that would have been quite difficult to do piecemeal in each of the districts. So, with that background, we set out a budget which requires essentially a 3% rise on the base council, which in this context is Vale Royal, because that was the lowest precepting district council, to which you added last year's council tax, and to that we've added 3%. The average overall across the whole of the area averages at 1.6%. So that is quite a good effort, I think. And in the budgetary papers there, you'll see in the annexes, I think it's Annex 4, you'll find the whole of the savings that have been made and where they've been made in part of the thing, and also some of the extra work we've had to put in. In other words, we've had to put in already something like 5% reduction in the county's income on their estate. That's quite a significant sum of money. That's £500,000 just while you just say it in a quick breath. And of course, in the current climate, that is no more than an estimate. So that may be worse as we go through the year. We will not know, of course, at this point in time. And so that brings me to the next point, is that having set this budget with quite a degree of saving in it, nevertheless, there is still probably more to do. That, if you think about it, we've just dealt with those issues that we needed to deal with. We probably still need some room for manoeuvre, because we have given ourselves a commitment in car parking to have some rationalisation of the charging, particularly in the light that when I read the developments in Ellesmere Port, both the town centre shopping areas suffer from a to over-expend any of our budgets, basically. That cannot be done. And as I explained to you, we probably need to be saving a further million, so this will be an opportunity for further reorganisation, but at a slightly slower pace, and perhaps hopefully just as much considered pace as we've been doing it. We need to ensure, I would think, probably order of several million more off the budget, without being precise about what that number is. And in doing that, we still have got to deliver, as we promised, the frontline services virtually in a seamless way. So we've got to protect that at all costs. And we are at the moment, of course, still trying to finalise our one-stop shops in that context, almost as we speak. I've been having emails across my desk today on that matter. So it's quite a tight target. In the end of the day, we are taking all the hits up front for the voluntary redundancies rather earlier than planned. And this has an effect on our reserves, and that's the last point I want to make. The reserves are below what would normally be the recommended minimum for a council of this size. It's normally something about 3, 5, 6% turnover. We're down below the bottom end of that by a million or so. Now, that's fine because we expect to replace this next year. So next year we'll be trying to run a surplus of a couple of million on the account in order to restore the reserves. But for this year, we've got to take a fairly big hit for these upfront costs, and that will be taken from the reserves, of course. So that is the reason why the reserves are where they are anticipated. But my colleague here on my right, who's our resources officer in Section 151, assures me that this is reasonable in the circumstances, and is assuring you all by the statement she's made in the accounts. So that's very important. The Section 151 has to sign off the budget, so she has appropriately done so in her professional capacity.
How happy have you been, Councillor Ford, at the disaggregation of the county budgets? Have we had our fair share of the county budgets?
Yes, I don't think there's been too many issues. It's not been so much the county budget as the county balance sheet that's been disaggregated. Right. And much of this concerned, you will see them in the area grants listing in section 1B, I think it is. Most of these grants we've gone over, and basically many of them have fallen down to the government's I'm just trying to think of the right technical word. The government has a position which it expects from the nature of the two boroughs. Fallback position, that's the right word, thank you very much. And having, so most of them are there. I think there were only about 2, one of which I can remember was county buses, because that had a bigger implication for East than it did for West, and there was something else on the children's side that reversed that matter for us. So we did, I think there's just 2 out of the whole, almost 100 I think it is, grants of one sort or another that we eventually varied slightly to suit both councils, because that maximised our use of government grant. But otherwise, it's been straightforward, it's been the fallback position.